5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's get ready to rumble!
We're focusing on Danish values today. All right. So for the newcomers, if you're here for the first time and you haven't been practicing with us, luckily for you, all the practice sessions have been recorded and they are on YouTube. And you can just go to YouTube and search Nearly Danish TV and you'll find the channel. Look under playlists and you see all the practice sessions grouped. Okay, so that's just an announcement for the newcomers. So on to the main course for today. Danish values questions. So the main thing about Danish values questions is whenever you're looking at any one of those questions, first of all, they're very common sense questions. They're not difficult. It's either a yes or a no answer. But the main thing is when you're looking at the question, you need to ask yourself, what is this question about? And there have been 3 exams with Danish values questions so far. And so far, I've seen a pattern emerge. And I will be discussing that pattern with you today. So, so far, the questions are grouped under different topics. And those are the topics we will be discussing. First topic. There are questions about gender equality. The main thing is when you're looking at the question, the theme or the topic of the question is gender equality, but the question itself is made more, like puts gender equality in a certain context. And you will see what I'm talking about right now. So we're moving on to a question, so get ready to answer. So these are questions from the actual exam. All right, so round of applause. So the question is, do independent schools and private primary schools have a duty to develop and strengthen students' respect for gender equality? So you can see that the topic of gender equality is actually in the question, in this specific one. So this is one example. So far, the topic of gender equality has featured in 4 questions. And one of them actually shows up twice. So the Danish values questions are beginning to repeat themselves, just like the frequently asked questions, okay? So we'll move on to the next one. 1 second, let me send the Kahoot ID to this guy. All right. Okay, so the question is, according to Danish law, can swimming pools be required to have separate opening hours for men and women? And as you can already see, the context here is swimming pools and opening hours. And the topic is gender equality. So there's no different, in Denmark at least, there's no different rules for men and women. So it's the same rules apply to both men and women. This particular question showed up in November 2021 and November 2022. So the most recent test. All right, moving on to the next one. Round of applause. Next one. All right, at the moment we have Cat, Kudos, SA, PSY, and Egon. AVF is the highest climber, up 5 places. On to the next one. All right, so it's really good that you guys are doing well. I'm sure you've practiced these questions, but the main thing is to understand the thinking behind the questions. This is also gender equality in the context of the church, of Dansk Folkekirken. And so it shows even in the church, there is gender equality. So men and women can become bishops. That's not the case in the Catholic Church, where it's only men that can become bishops. All right, so for gender equality, there are 3 unique questions, but 4 questions in total that have shown up in the previous Danish values questions. So now we're moving on to the next topic. But before that, we have Kudos, SA, Egon, PSY. 51 players just hit an answer streak of 351. Wow. I think that's the highest number of players with that answer streak I've ever seen in any session since I started doing this. So round of applause. All right, moving on. So there are also questions about child protection. So children have rights in Denmark. And like I said before, the topic is child protection or children's rights, but the question puts it in a specific context. Okay, so moving on to the next one, you see what I'm talking about. Okay, so the question is it legal to conduct a religious wedding of minors in Denmark? This question actually messed a lot of people up when it showed up in November 2021. And that was because of this word. So a lot of people didn't understand the word. So, and I've also noticed that in the Danish values questions, they twist up the questions a bit. But anyways, just make sure that you have a broad enough vocabulary of Danish so that, you know, you understand what the question is and you're able to answer the right one. So in the what was I saying? In this question, the topic is child protection. The context is marriage. So children are not allowed to get married. I think the legal age of getting married in Denmark is 18. So anybody under that age is not allowed to be married in Denmark, according to Danish law. So for the 6 people that got this wrong, now you know what you don't know. And by the way, you're almost guaranteed to see another question within the context of gender equality in the next test. So please be on the lookout for that. All right, on to the next one. Like I said before, pay attention to the context of the question, because that will give you a clue as to what the right answer is. All right, so we have Egon, Kudos, PSY, Victoria, and R in the top 5. 4 players just hit an answer streak of 3.
Excellent.
Next question under the same topic. All right, so this question also messed a lot of people up. I can see 9 people got this wrong, so this one has actually been the worst one so far today. So question is, and this is what I mean by, if you don't understand what these words mean, then you're not going to know what to answer, right? So it's according to Danish law, is it legal to have sexual intercourse with a person under the age of 15, even if the person has given you consent? So the answer, of course, is no. Why? Because the person is a minor. Okay, and it doesn't matter if a minor gives you consent, you will be committing a crime if you have sex with them, whether they're a boy or a girl. And this is under the topic of child protection. Okay, so under the topic of gender equality, there have been a total of 4 questions, 3 of them unique because one of them appeared twice. And so far in child protection, we've seen 2 questions. There's a third one. Okay, so PSY number 1, kudos to number 2, Victoria now on the podium at number 3, SMS and Eric 4 and 5. 7 players lost their answer streak of 4. Like I said, this was a tough round. Sorry, guys. And by the way, do not get confused by the colors. Actually, look at the actual words in the answers. I can see someone is saying that they made a mistake. So pay attention to the words in the answers, okay? And I need to mention this as well. The exam is not a Kahoot, it's pen and paper. You have 1 minute per question. So take your time, read the question, make sure you understand what the question is asking, read the answers, and then go ahead and answer. Okay, I put you under a bit more pressure in the Kahoots, just so that you're not under pressure in the exam. So in the Kahoots, I give you 20 seconds per question, whereas in the exam, you have 1 minute. So more than double the time. All right, we're moving on to the next one. All right, so the question is, can you go to prison for sending your child abroad to conditions that seriously endanger the child's health or development? So-called re-education trips. And of course, the answer is yes. So in Denmark, children have rights. And if you endanger the child in any way, shape, or form, you are liable to jail, according to Danish law. And like I said before, the context of the question is child protection. And you see, the reason I'm saying this is because you can come up with so many questions, right, within the context of child protection, but the context remains the same. And that's the thing you should be paying attention to. So when you read the question, ask yourself, what is this question about? What is it about, really? It's not really about the question, it's about what the question is about. And that will give you a clue as to what the correct answer is, okay? All right, moving on to the next one. This seems to be a competitive round, so a lot of people, again, reshuffle. PSY is holding the number 1 spot, Victoria number 2, SMS 3, RAF for kudos 5, and Queen is the highest climber, up 4 places. All right. So the next topic, freedom. And you will see, well, as we move on, you're going to see questions where the context is freedom. So on to the next one. So the question is, according to Danish law, can you be punished with prison if you illegally force someone to a religious wedding? And the answer is yes, because you will be violating their freedom if you force them to get married to someone that they don't want to get married to. Like I said before, the context here, freedom. So like I said, read the question, ask yourself, what's this question about? And that would give you a clue to the right answer. Okay? On to the next one. Static top 5 except RAF and SMS switched positions. SA is back with an answer streak of 3, and he's on fire.
Oh my! He's on fire!
On to the next one. All right, so according to Danish law, can a family decide with whom an 18-year-old can get into a relationship with? And I mean, if you if you look at it, right, it's framed in such a way like it's like they're basically asking, can you violate the freedom of an 18-year-old? That's what the question is, actually. If you extract all the details, it's, can you violate the freedom of an 18-year-old? And the answer is no. For the 5 people that got this wrong, I hope you're beginning to see that pattern because it's going to show up again. Okay, so we're moving on to the next one. Steve is making a comeback with 3 in a row.
Oh my! He's on fire!
All right. So the next topic is contrast with specific religious tradition. So the point being that Denmark has its own values and traditions in contrast to other values and traditions. Okay, so specifically this. Okay, so according to Danish law, can you demand that meat is served in daycare, that meat that is served in daycare centers comes from animals that have been ritually slaughtered? So in the Muslim tradition, there's the halal. In the Jewish tradition, there's kosher. And daycare centers are public institutions. And in public institutions, there is no, well, according to Danish law, you can't demand that, all the food has to be halal or kosher, according to Danish law. So the context of this is contrast with specific religious traditions. Okay? There's another question. So far, I'll do a recap. Gender equality is number 1, with 4 questions have shown up out of the total 15 questions that have ever shown up in Danish values have been about gender equality. 3 questions out of all the 15 questions have been about child protection. 2 questions have been about freedom. And so far, 1 question about the contrast with specific religious tradition. There is another one. 33 players have reached an answer streak of 9. Wow. All right.
Excellent.
Next one. All right. So, according to Danish law, can you enter into marriage with more than one person at a time? And like I said, it's contrast with specific religious traditions. So in Islam, you're allowed to marry more than one wife at the same time. So polygamy is allowed in Islam, whereas in Denmark, according to Danish law, polygamy is not allowed. You're only allowed to marry one person at a time. And if you want to get married to someone else, you have to divorce the person that you're currently married to, marry the next person. So this just puts this topic in context. Okay, so for contrast with specific religious traditions, there are 2 questions so far. Moving on to the next topic, static top 5, PSY, Victoria, RAAF, Pan, and Tanker. Sti is the highest climber, up 4 places. All right, next topic. So, as a topic of crimes against the state. Let's see what the question is. The question is pretty straightforward. So the question is, can you be punished with life imprisonment for joining an armed force that fights against the Danish state? And the answer is yes. So if you join some kind of organization, whatever it is that fights against the Danish state, you are liable to go to jail for life. For crimes against the state, there is only one question. And for the rest of the topics, there's only one question each. So let's see what the next topic is. Static top 5. Domestic violence. Okay, on to the next one. All right, so question is according to Danish law. And if you notice, most of the questions start with according to Danish law. Okay, so according to Danish law, is it permissible to beat one's spouse? The answer is no, it's not permissible to beat one's spouse, whether it's a man hitting a woman or a woman hitting a man. You will be committing a crime if you do that. And someone reports you, or you go to court, you're liable to a crime. All right. So for this specific one, domestic violence, there's only one question. Let's see what the next topic is. Okay, so far, I'll do another recap. And I keep doing these recaps so that you remember, okay? So gender equality is the most popular one. They ask about gender equality they ask 4 questions about gender equality. They've asked one of those questions twice. And they just changed the context of the question. Okay? Second one, child protection. 3 questions. Freedom, 2 questions. Contrast with religious tradition, 2 questions. Crimes against the state, 1. Domestic violence, 1. There's 2 more topics. Liberalism. Okay, so Denmark is a liberal country. And this question will illustrate that. All right, so the question is it possible for a person over 18 to get a CPR number that corresponds to a different gender? So change your legal gender. And the answer is yes. And the reason is because Denmark is a liberal country. And if you're over the age of 18 and you choose to change your gender, you're allowed to. And you will get issued a different CPR number for your new gender. All right, moving on to the last one. Low corruption in Denmark as a result of high levels of trust. I know this is a bit long, but it's just one question. And yeah, it's actually the longest question, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I cut it short because it had to fit in here. All right, so the question is Denmark amongst the 3 countries in the world that are believed to have the least corruption in the public sector, according to Transparency International? So that's Corruption Perception Index 2021. And well, the answer is yes. It's kind of like, it's a leading question. The context of it is low corruption in Denmark. And these are all the questions that have been asked so far in Danish Values and the topics that they cover. So you can expect to see these topics again, but in a different form. So the question will be different, but the topics will stay the same. So keep an eye out. And I'm almost certainly sure that there will be questions about gender equality. I'm sure of that. The most frequently asked question in the test is when women got the right to vote. So that's about gender equality. Gender equality is featured everywhere. So in both tests, Melbo Escapes Porn, Infosat's Porn, and now it's featuring again in the Danish Values. This session is being recorded, so if you need to watch it again to get a recap of these topics, please do. I will post it up on the YouTube, and I'll post that link in the group. All right, so this was the last question. So we'll go to the podium. All right, so we have Pan, Victoria. Is that your first time on the podium? And PSY. All right, Tanker and Kudos, number 4 and 5.